Boys and girls, welcome back to the Expansion Pack podcast. We download this week's content and bring it to you. Welcome to episode 25. Sorry I missed out last week. I had a lot going on between some technical difficulties, feeling a little sick after getting my vaccine on. But I'm here now, after an even more eventful week. So thank you for joining us. Again, I'm Denzel, aka Black Ice, joined by my amazing co-host, Manny, aka Goop Master Flex. Say what's up to the people, bro.
You already know, stay gooping.
Yeah. And joined by Chris, aka May 25th. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm good. How you gentlemen doing? Here to talk about games. Let's do it, yeah. Let's do it.
We are here to talk about games. Had an interesting week for sure. But let's just get it started, bro. What you guys been playing this week, Chris? Let us know.
I played a little bit of Destiny earlier this week. Iron Banner. Got those pinnacles out of the way. And then as soon as I was done with that, I kind of hopped on Outriders for a little bit. I'm actually stuck. I'm mad because I cannot get past this part. And I'm looking at myself like, dude, I beat two altered. I beat that electric dude, then I beat the fire dude, and I cannot beat this horde of little minions that they kill me every single time. I'm so mad. So because I can't do it. I'm probably gonna have to drop the world tier, so unless I get some homies.
Oh, we definitely gotta jump in there.
Another XPack plays.
It's rough, man. Right now. It is rough by yourself. They made that game so co-op friendly. It's not even funny. It's really hard for a solo player to really want to get through that game. But I digress.
Yeah, I agree.
That's probably about it. I don't think I touched anything else, did I? Nope, that's it. That's all I did.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Manny, what's up, man? What you been doing?
Well, of course, playing Outriders with the boys. Streamed that. I think it was like Monday or Tuesday night. I forgot, but we played Outriders for a bit. And then during the week, it was just a mix of random games like Warzone, 2K, I think, a little bit. And then Thursday, was it Thursday? No, it was Friday. MLB The Show, I was playing that a little bit. And Saturday as well. Uh-oh. And then I was streaming that as well as streaming Halo with the boys, you know what I'm saying? Whooping them, whooping the boys, except for in Griffball.
Yeah, definitely except for Griffball.
But other than that, yeah, it's been Outriders, MLB, and I'll say Halo, the highlight of the week for me.
Word. Okay. Well, for me, I got 2 weeks of this to catch up on, because I've been out. So last week, for last week's episode, basically, I finally got a chance to finish Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Nice.
Absolutely fantastic game, loving it. Actually, it's going to be one of our topics this week, so we'll get into it a little bit later. But of course, Outriders, playing that with you guys. If you guys didn't get a chance to check it out, we were streaming last Sunday, right? Yeah.
I thought it was Monday. I think it was Monday.
Monday?
Was it?
Because I remember coming from work.
I can't even remember.
Everything is a blur for me, guys.
Yeah.
Also, I unlocked a new achievement this week. Fatherhood. My newborn son is finally here, so been catching up on sleep or trying to catch up on sleep. I haven't been playing as much this week, and my days have definitely been blurring together. So forgive me if I don't know what day we played, whatever. But yeah, Outriders we definitely dived into a little bit last week.
Mm-hmm.
And as I came home from the hospital, well, really last night as of recording this, the Resident Evil Village demo finally went up, so I got a chance to play that. And then, we were playing a little bit of Halo last night as well. So, not too much going on for me. Obviously, got a lot of other things going on in my life right now, but yeah, still getting a chance to game a little bit, have a little bit of fun.
Nice.
Hey.
Denzel gonna have his, his son be his next prodigy. He's gonna be the next Iceman. He's gonna be Black Ice 9.
It's gonna be Broccoli Head 9. That's what it's gonna be. Broccoli Head 9, yo.
Hey, yo, he don't even be out here with a stupid name like that. Ain't no Broccoli Head in this man's future, bro.
Yo, but like, imagine though, because like, all right, I don't mean to segue for a second, but we've all been killed in a PvP game by somebody with like a crazy name, and it pisses you off more because their name is crazy. I'm just saying, if Broccoli Head inherits good gun skills from said father, and then Broccoli Head's in these lobbies just wrecking folk, I'm just saying he gon' cause some ire in the lobby, because if I get headshotted by somebody named Broccoli Head, I'm tight. Like, come on, man. Like, Broccoli Head just hit me with the headshot.
Hey,
man.
You're not wrong.
Man.
You're not wrong. I would definitely be really tight if I got killed by somebody named Broccoli Head. But yeah, hopefully he picks a better name than that. That's all I'm gonna say.
Chris better not have any influence.
Nah, bro. Nah, we ain't listening to Uncle Chris on that one.
That's super funny.
All right, but hey, Uncle Chris, you know what time it is, bro. Hit us off with this iceberg.
Woo! Hold up. I gotta do a slow one. Here's the scenario for the icebreaker. You guys are confronted by an anti-gamer. What's an anti-gamer? Somebody who you guys know these kind of people. Gaming sucks. Gaming is for kids. Gaming is all the crap that we've heard our entire lives. You're confronted by one of those folks, and you're presented with an opportunity to prove them wrong, per se, right? So you get the chance to choose one game out of every game you've ever played to try to change their opinion. What is your choice for that one game?
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I had to dig deep for that one, y'all. I had to really dig deep.
But it really did.
I felt like this would be a good conversation.
Okay. Well, Manny, you want to start it off, bro?
I mean,
I knew that was gonna happen.
If I have the honors, no, let me stop. I feel like the only right game to start them off with is, well, not the only right game, because obviously there's a lot of choices out in the world with games. But I feel like, especially if you want a good story with some good action and adventure and all that kind of stuff, I feel like the most recent God of War is, the perfect answer. You know what I'm saying? You got that. First of all, who doesn't love Kratos? You know what I'm saying? Like, Kratos is that man, especially when he be with his son. He's like, boy. But I mean, first of all, the God of War story is like amazing. As we all know, of course. So I'm sure just the story alone, you'll love it. As well as the gameplay mechanics of the game as well. Very fluid. So I mean, if you're looking for a good story, just pop it on easy, and you're just looking, and you're like, all right, this may be it.
Okay. God of War.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
You can't go wrong with that answer for sure. I feel like, and this is gonna be long-winded because that's how I am. I feel like it's such a hard question to answer because obviously, like, I guess in essence, that's kind of the beauty of games, and like, also people is like, I don't know if like it would have to be specific to that person, right? Like I can sit here and say like, okay, every person in the world is gonna look at God of War and say, all right, and I'm not trashing your answer, Manny, but like every person gonna look at God of War and say like, that's the game, like that is like why gaming is great, yada yada yada. In my opinion, and I think we can all agree, like, in our circle, I think that's what you can look at as like the pinnacle of gaming, like God of War and Last of Us and games like that.
Yeah.
But there's, and sorry again, this is going to be long-winded. I'm just going to tell you now. But it's interesting enough because as I was at the hospital this past week, after my son was born, we were in like postpartum ward or maternity ward, and one of our nurses came into the room, and I just happened to have my Xbox controller in my bag. I had it in my bag from a different instance where I was out and about, like I was using XCloud and whatnot. I didn't get a chance to use it in the hospital, but I picked it up and put it on the windowsill because I was digging through a couple of the things. So the nurse saw it and she was like, "Oh, like, do you have a?" And this is like a relatively older woman, like 50s, 60s, something along those lines. She's like, "Oh, do you have a Switch?" And like she told me this whole scenario about how she frowned upon video games pretty much her entire life, and just recently, she was kind of like bedridden or immobilized because she had some surgery on her foot, and her son brought her a Switch Lite, and brought her Animal Crossing, and she basically told us how she like absolutely fell in love with that game, and how the idea of doing like mundane tasks basically kind of helped her stay sane, from all the things that were going on with the pandemic and her inability to do anything. And she talked about how she suffers from anxiety, so like that game really helped her along. And I thought it was just really interesting. Like, obviously, we've had our conversations about Animal Crossing on this podcast for sure. I personally, it's a game that I understand people love, and I understand that I had a moment, but I wouldn't really consider it like a great game or anything. But that game help this woman understand that gaming is more than just Grand Theft Auto and shooting people and all this other stuff. Like, she understood that there's more to it than that. So I say that to say that I don't know that I could really give a definitive answer. But for me, if I'm talking to somebody who's like me and who's never played games and never believed in games before, my answer would have to be The Last of Us, because the story in that game is absolutely phenomenal. It really like draws you in. The gameplay loop, in addition to the story, is, I think, like I mentioned beforehand, like the pinnacle of gaming. So that's my answer.
Okay. Yeah, this one was hard for me to kind of come up with an answer for too. I was flirting with a couple of different responses. I think overall, and again, I definitely hear what you're saying. When like, it's kind of hard to answer it because you're never gonna completely blanket everybody because it's impossible to do that. But I feel like for most people in general, I probably would maybe go with COD. I think not like Warzone, but more just a version of the multiplayer. Simply just because of the fact that it's easy to kind of get into it. I would say it's not easy to be like really good at the game at first, but it's easy to just understand that you're just picking up a gun and going around a corner and it's like arcade style, kill people and try to get your kill streak up type of thing. Like, I feel like you could explain that to almost anybody really simply and they're gonna get it, and they'll just kind of like be able to run off and do their thing afterwards. The way how the attachments and all that are set up is pretty simple, I would say too. Because the thing about COD that's wild to me is like a lot of the Prodigy stuff I see with little kids, a lot of times it's on COD, and it always like kind of like blows my mind how it's always works that way, because I would have never assumed a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or anything like that would be able to pick it up and not only be able to shoot well, but like know how to build their weapon and do all that kind of wild stuff. But these kids, they they know how to do it. So I feel like it's a little bit of that, and then also, how do I put it? There's a level of satisfaction, like from when you get like your first headshot in a game or something like that. I would say like there's something there, like a dopamine rush or something. I don't know what it is, but I feel like that's again something easy to kind of achieve in something like COD. Those little moments where you kind of feel like, ooh, I did this. Nah, yeah, that was nice. Ooh, and they get you charged up for a second or whatever. The only thing I will say is though, the one negative to what I'm saying with COD is that the community is very toxic sometimes. So it can so if you're looking at it from that standpoint, it could turn a lot of people off. Like, they'll just join a lobby and just hear what some of these folks are saying and just be like, no. But just strictly from a gaming standpoint, I don't know. I just feel like it's easy for folks to jump into something like COD now more than ever. I remember I never used to even like these games, and now I kind of like them to a degree now. That would be my choice. Just in I know I wouldn't. I'd probably get like 70% of folks with that one. I would say not like everybody, but a good amount of people. I think would just, yeah.
I think the toxicity is one thing, and I think I do think that would turn some people off. I think the what's the word I want to use? The skill gap is really, I think, the thing that would really turn people off more. Because if you're like an anti-gamer, chances are, you've never picked up a controller before.
Yeah.
Chances are. And I feel like a first-person shooter is probably one of the hardest things. And I, if you guys feel differently, definitely let me know. And viewers, if you feel differently, let me know too. I feel like a first-person shooter is probably one of the hardest things to pick up if you're not a like young child who, like, you mentioned, Chris, like kids, right? Like they're like mental like elasticity, like being able to pick up new things and learn new skills is really high. So I think that's why you see a lot of kids really dive into Call of Duties and Fortnite's. Like, you watch kids play Fortnite and like the way that they can build, and it's freaking insane. Like to get that dexterity. But like if you're Sue, like generic name for the woman that I'm talking about in the nurse from the nursery, like you're 60 or whatever, and you're picking up Call of Duty or you're picking up a controller for the first time, and you have to like not only have to figure out, okay, I have to use the left stick to move, but then I have to use the right stick to look around. Like I think for the average person, I think that barrier can be a little bit jarring. But once you get past that, I absolutely agree with you. Like the satisfaction of like getting that headshot or those oh shit moments of seeing all that happen, it can be addicting, right? Like it's just like that dopamine rush, like right into your veins. So yeah.
It's interesting, I'm over. I'll let you go first.
I remember when we first started playing Warzone when it first came out, and I think we were all, I think it was a quad that we were doing. I think it was you, us two, me, and I can't remember who the fourth person was. Might have been Omac or something like that. But I remember you got in a heli, Goop. And I remember you jumped out the heli and you killed somebody with it, and you got mad hype. Like he got mad hype, bro. And like the energy just like, I don't know, it trickled to everybody else, and it was just ended up being a good game. But man, yeah, stuff like that. Like I feel like those little moments, yeah, they just catch you. Because I remember the first time we started playing, I was in there for hours. I was like, man, this is fun, man. This is different. Yeah. I must have got like 2 kills the whole day. But like it was fun.
I felt that. Now it's funny because like when you mentioned that, I remember one time I was streaming and I threw a helicopter at somebody, and like after the whole match ended, like I just looked at my chat and I realized somebody messaged me saying, or like put in the chat saying, it's like, I'm the one you killed, you asshole. Like, he's like, that's not right. So like Call of Duty is fun, like. And it's not only just like the competitive aspect. Like I remember in the Modern Warfare 2 glory days when we used to like do like all these private matches, like Manhunt or whatever it's called, Michael Myers. There we go. That's what I was talking about. Like hide and seek and everything like that. Like stuff like that is fun too, especially when you have a lot of group of people playing. So I can see what you mean with the whole Call of Duty aspect. The skills gap, like Denzel said, with the broken skill-based matchmaking as well, could be a little turn off point. But other than that, yeah, like you definitely have a good time.
Yeah, I think once you get past that point, it definitely can like latch people in.
Tell you, man, give them a 7.25 and let them run around that map, boy. I'm telling you that right now, they gonna be all right. That gun be clapping.
What happens if they don't know where to aim and they're just sitting there like looking at their feet?
If you don't know how to get a kill with a 7.25, my guy, come on, son.
Man.
Yeah, put the sticks down. Maybe it's not for you.
It is, yeah. Oh man, or pick up Animal Crossing, yeah. But yeah, man, I like that. I like that icebreaker for today, man. I appreciate that one. But yeah, let's dive into the topics for this week. So, first first thing we'll really dive into here, last week, and I guess since this whole year has really started, we've been talking about PlayStation and the trajectory that they're on. It hasn't been good news recently for PlayStation as far as all the different things that are happening with Xbox and even I guess in some respects Nintendo. Just there's a lot more conversation going on in the industry around everyone other than Sony, and we talked about it at length recently about PlayStation feeling kind of stagnant, but they're still the market leader right now. Seems like this week the NPD group announced that PlayStation 5 is the fastest selling console of all time, which is crazy. On top of the fact that you can't fucking get one anywhere. Mm-hmm. They're extremely hard to come by, but yet, yeah, they're out here. They're killing it. Let's see. What do they say here? I mean, yeah, the fact that the next gen format has achieved the feat in both dollars sales and unit sales. So not only have they sold more, financially, they've also literally moved more units. Which I guess is also impressive when you think about the fact that there's two different SKUs, right? Mm-hmm. So there's obviously the digital version and the regular disc version. So that means they definitely would have to eclipse the sales of the PS4, because from what I recall, PS4 only had, was it one model when it came out?
Yeah, it's only one model.
I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think the price point was the same as the digital version of the PS5, mm-hmm. right? So. Yeah, so the fact that they have a digital version now, and obviously the disc-based version, yeah, I mean it's impressive to see. And obviously the PS4 didn't really have the same kind of constraints as the PS4 didn't have the same constraints as the PS5 has now, as far as the limited ability for people to get it because of the pandemic and the whole semiconductor shortage. So yeah, it's definitely impressive to see. I mean, PlayStation's market lead is still there, even though they haven't really been making as many interesting moves as we would like them to be making. Mm-hmm. They're definitely still selling. People still want them. Obviously I went out and bought one. Manny, you bought one. So they still have people interested in playing their games. And speaking of games, Miles Morales also had some crazy set of numbers too. I think for the last 12 months, the MPD said that Miles Morales is the third best-selling game for the year, beating out Ghost of Tsushima, beating out Last of Us. I mean, that's kind of amazing, right? Like, considering mm-hmm. It's really just an expansion pack, no pun intended. But yeah, it's not like a full-fledged game. It's a relatively short thing in comparison to Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima. And yet, that branding, that Spider-Man branding, it's just too strong, man. And obviously the game itself is amazing. So it's really interesting to see, with PlayStation and what they're doing. So, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What do you guys think about the news here? Danny?
I mean, like, it goes both ways because, with the whole pandemic and everything like that, like, it is impressive to see that they are like the fastest selling when it comes to units and money-wise. But at the same time, since the whole pandemic thing and it's like everything's all online, I feel like part of that is also because them scalpers are I'm saying being thirsty for them systems. I feel like if you eliminated the whole scalper part of everything, I feel like we would just be at a point where everybody has a PlayStation 5 and probably wouldn't be selling more than what they have right now, because scalpers probably be purchasing like 10 consoles at a time. So it's congrats though to Sony, of course, what I'm saying, for still selling, even though like we already know like their questionable moves like last week with the Days Gone 2, like you mentioned, and stuff like that. And like I said, I just feel like like the whole scalpers and also like people already just like fanboying like PlayStation, saying Xbox sucks, even though they probably haven't even tried it, does have a play factor. Like I feel like eventually when people realize the power of Game Pass and everything like that, the tides will turn. But also it was funny, I was reading the article too, and how it was saying how merchandise was also at its highest point, and I was like, them DualSense controllers, the drift gets you, so you got to get a new controller.
That's an interesting way to look at it, but I mean, you're not wrong.
That's the point.
Not wrong.
That's the point.
Definitely not wrong there.
But
that's funny.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive, and of course, Miles Morales too. Great game. Like Denzel said, he just beat it himself. So, yeah, I also feel like part of that probably is since it was cheaper as a game, it probably sold a lot more, but not that much. It's not like it was like a $30 compared to $60, but yeah, still a great game. Congrats to Miles Morales for being the most sold, right, compared to Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us 2, and I believe it was actually the 5th best-selling game this year. So, but yeah, shout out to him.
The 5th best-selling in the last 12 months.
Oh, my last 12 months. Yeah, that's what I meant.
But sorry, I got it mixed up. You're right. It was the 5th best-selling in the last 12 months, but I think it's the 3rd best-selling game of this year, of 2021.
Oh, 2021. Oh.
Yep, I got it mixed up. My fault there. But yeah. So Chris, yeah, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. I guess I'm not really surprised by that. Hold on one second, guys. Let me turn off my Discord because I can't be doing that. Yeah, I'm not really surprised too much by it per se because I guess if I look at it like logically, I'm looking at it like the PS4 sold a shit ton last generation, so a lot of those folks are clearly going to be trying to get PS5, and then when I'm looking at the launch titles that kind of came out with the PS5. It almost seems like it was a given that Spider-Man was going to sell very well. It was going to sell well regardless because it's Spider-Man. But, with the limited amount of launch titles to choose from, it's not like people was going out and buying Godfall. you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody was doing that. So, I'm not mad at it, but I'm not necessarily surprised. I think it kind of like just makes perfect sense, like how they kind of got here with those numbers. Yeah, I'm definitely kind of shocked that this is the numbers that we're getting right now. I'm very curious to see how the numbers look later on, because it's only been like 6 months since 5 months,
5 to 6
since
months.
It's been out.
Yeah.
Because like the one thing I'll say is that I get that they're still in the lead for a little bit right now, but I am hearing more and more and more and more folks outside of our circle and outside of like the reputable sources that we know talking about Game Pass and talking about this and talking about the benefits of having an Xbox, like in the weirdest of spots. Like I go on YouTube comments and there's somebody in there talking about, yo, that Game Pass kind of hitting though. You know what I'm saying? Like it's spreading. It is spreading. So I think it's cool for now. It's all right. But I really kind of want to see what's good in like a year's time. Let's see what's good by like November, especially after Halo comes out. That's when I'm like, all right, let's talk to me then. Let's see what's good with that. You know what I'm saying?
One of the things I'm really curious about too, because they're talking about it's the fastest selling console, of all time, whatever. And we know that both companies are having supply constraints. Right. Is it a matter of it just brute forced it out that Sony just happened to make more consoles than Xbox, and that's really why we are where we are right now?
I thought that was some of it too. I'm not gonna lie.
Because it's hard to get both systems, right? It's not like I can just waltz into the store and get an Xbox right now, or I can waltz into the store and get a PlayStation. Like it takes some effort to do that. So if they're selling through everything that they have, it feels like it's just a matter of Sony probably was just able to make a couple more than Microsoft was. I don't know if that necessarily would have made a difference in this scenario, but it definitely is interesting. And yeah, obviously, talking a little bit more about Miles Morales, even just the understanding that within a 12-month time span, right? Like realistically, if we're talking about it, Miles Morales was only out for 5 months. So for it to sell more than Last of Us Part 2, which was an extremely highly anticipated game and was out since what, June?
Yeah.
July? Something
June.
like that. And same thing with Ghost of Tsushima, also out since
July.
June or July. Like those are two massive games, over the summer that a lot of people were playing and talking about. So the fact that Miles Morales still sold more than it, like, I think it's really interesting. And to Chris's point, I think it can definitely have a little bit something to do with, attach rates on PlayStation 5. It's like, okay, like I'm getting a PlayStation 5. Well, what game am I going to get? Well, this one's supposed to really showcase all the new stuff, so might as well get this. But even still, the fact that the PlayStation brand is so strong and there's so many PS4s out there in the world, and yet people still didn't buy as many copies of The Last of Us Part 2, didn't buy as many copies as Ghost of Tsushima. I think it's an interesting narrative that gets tossed around, right? Like, we talking about last week, right? The information came out that Days Gone didn't sell well enough for Sony to determine that, okay, we're going to make a sequel, right? I think it only sold, what was it, 3 million, 5 million, something along those lines.
Yeah, I believe so.
And
I
they were
believe
looking
5
for it to
million.
sell
8
They were
million.
looking for it to sell 8 million. It's a narrative that definitely gets tossed around a lot with PlayStation, right? Like, they sell a lot of consoles, but their exclusives don't sell as well. The exclusives don't hit the numbers that people really want to talk about. Like everybody talks about how obviously PlayStation has better exclusives than Xbox, and I agree with that, right? But the exclusives that Microsoft has, they really hit, right? The big names are like the biggest hitters of the industry. Like the Gears of Wars, they constantly surpass 10 million. Halo's always surpassed 20 million, right? Like there's always a lot of numbers that we're talking about here. So it's just interesting. I just figured something to bring up. It's just interesting that we talk about these games, and I'm still shocked that The Last of Us is in here as selling less than Miles Morales. I just think that's weird because I hold that, obviously, as I talked about in my icebreaker, like I hold that franchise in really high esteem, and my perception is that other people seem to as well. Obviously, I know it's not on the same level as Halo as far as numbers and brand recognition and all that stuff, but to see it not selling as well as Miles Morales is interesting.
I feel like it's more of just the fact that it's Spider-Man, and we know, like, if you put into the aspect where it's like these parents control basically what the kids are playing, and they're like, okay, I don't want little Johnny playing Last of Us 2, but Spider-Man Miles Morales, everybody loves Spider-Man, so I mean I can kind of see like that kind of aspect. But yeah, I know what you mean though. It's like it's weird when we see like PlayStation sell so many consoles, and like you said, just to sell only like 5 million, 10 million units, barely even reaching that at times. So it just shows that just maybe that's why Sony wants to be more cautious about their exclusives, like we mentioned last week.
Yeah, I think that's it. I really do think. I mean, and I can't necessarily fault them for that if they're looking at their numbers and saying, hey, like, we want to make more money in this aspect, and we're making all these high quality games, and they're not really selling as well as we think that they should be. Like, I get it. It's interesting for sure. But yeah, we'll pivot over to the next topic here. So, you guys already know me. You guys know.
Yes, sir.
My favorite franchise of all time. So Resident Evil, of course. We got our showcase this past week. Manny, I don't know how you feel about it, because I know you're a Resident Evil fan as well, and I know that you talked about last week. You threw a little bit of shade at Capcom for the way they handled their showcases in the past. Yeah, like the 15-minute Johns and whatever. Not really having as much information as we might want them to have. Before I even go into like recapping it, I just want to get your take on what do you think about this one compared to the first one.
Interesting enough, like I saw like the show. I didn't see the show like all of it, but I saw it was like what, an hour and a half, and then it's like I was looking at the highlights, or what basically to look forward to, and I feel like what we got out of it was 4 things. We got, all right, they got the demo. Here's a little trailer of the anime, or not the anime, but the animated, whatever, anime.
The Netflix show, yeah.
We call it anime, you know what I'm saying? Anime.
Yeah.
We got that Resident Evil 4 VR, and then the Dead by Daylight thing. Like, I feel like in the span of an hour and a half, and that's all you got, it's pretty poor for like a showcase. Like, at that point, you probably could have fit it into 15 minutes like last time. But, oh, I can't forget about our village mercenary modes. That's 5. All right, we'll make it 5. So like, like I looked at everything. I'm excited, of course. I still have the VR headset, but I don't know if that will work with the Resident Evil 4, because ain't it like quest? Yeah, so can't get an F in the chat for that. But one thing that was weird though is with the demos of Resident Evil. It's why is it timed only? You know what I'm saying? Because I remember you were playing the demo yesterday, and I didn't realize this until after, like, just when I was looking through everything this morning. And I was wondering why you're gonna play the demo. I was like, first I'm gonna play the demo. I'm gonna do it later. And the next thing you know, it ain't gonna be there. So that's one thing that was like, why are you gonna do it like a time thing? That's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So just to let people know about it, right? Like they set up the Resident Evil Village demo. It's so they're like sectioning it off. So PlayStation users will get a chance to play it. Well, the time's already passed now, but April 17th, there's like an 8-hour window where you can play 30 minutes of the village portion of the demo. And then next week, on the 24th, you'll get a chance to play 30 minutes of the castle for PlayStation users. And then on May 1st, everyone gets to play the full demo, which will include the castle and the village. And it's just such a weird way to like section it off because these first two attempts are really only like 8-hour windows to play a 30-minute span of the game. It's a really weird way to do it, man. I don't know why they're doing that.
That's
like
fucking creepy.
Yeah, it's really dumb. It's really dumb. And I think that the way that they went about this showcase, again recapping what Manny talked about, right? They focused on showing more gameplay. They talked about the demo. They showed off like basically a trailer of the Netflix show, which I'm really excited about. They showed off the Resident Evil Mercenaries mode. They announced the Dead by Daylight collaboration. But I think the biggest thing out of the whole thing is the Resident Evil 4 VR game, right? It looks amazing. Like I'm actually pretty excited for it. Slightly disappointed that it's not a full remake of the game coming to consoles, which I still suspect is coming down the road. But my biggest thing is like, why did we need another showcase for this, right? Like you could have just unloaded the whole thing back in March or wherever it was, February, wherever it was that you gave us the first showcase. Like you could have just done a huge blowout there. I don't know.
I agree.
It makes me like a little annoyed. Like Capcom, what are you doing? But I will say I freaking enjoyed my time in that village demo. Like I actually really like it. You're not fighting zombies yet. You're fighting like lichens or werewolves, which really like fucked me up at first. Not gonna lie. Like there's a point in the demo where like the demo already starts out really creepy because there's this like old woman you're walking up to and talking to, and then like obviously everything just feels like really hollow and empty. Very Resident Evil 4 vibes. So I'm just like walking through, and then like it's not exactly clear that you're supposed to walk through this like patch of grass that's like taller than your head, and all of a sudden you just hear whoosh, and like something just like jump past you, so it scares the shit out of me first off. And I'm like, I don't want to go over there. Like I can't see anything. Like I'm just gonna be walking through all this like tall grass. I can't see what the hell's over there. I don't want to go over there. So I'm like waiting, and then I remembered like, and I was streaming it last night, so you guys could check out the stream to know. But I remember I'm like, shit, this is time. Like I can't keep dicking around. Like I have to go. So I start going through, and all of a sudden I see these like werewolves like running at me. I'm like, yo, nah. Like I'm shooting it. It's not dying. I was like, like
silver bullets, man.
Yeah, yeah, I need the silver bullets. There's this cool mechanic where if you shoot like I forgot what it was. I guess it was flour. If you shoot flour, it like shoots up this thing of powder, and you can kind of like dodge the werewolves. Like it stuns them, and then you can get by. So I was able to do that and like proceed through the demo. I have to say like I like what I saw so far for sure. But man, yeah, I don't know. I'm disappointed with the way they're presenting all the information so far. Like, just give us the demo, show us everything that you want to show us, announce all the things that you want to announce. There's gonna have to be another showcase, right? Because they still didn't show off the Resident Evil movie remake that's supposed to be happening or be releasing later this year. And chances are they'll probably tie that to the full announcement of a Resident Evil 4 remake as well. So it's just like, yeah, I love all my Resident Evil news, but like give it to me up front, like don't waste my time with all these little breadcrumbs. I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me annoyed. Yeah.
So,
but Chris, what do you think about?
Well, clearly I'm not like as Resident Evil crazy as you guys are.
Yeah.
So I live vicariously through you guys in a lot of this, but a lot of this stuff does look cool. It looks like the trailer for this time, that I saw from the showcase for Village. It was a way better trailer in this one than I thought the last one was. Last one was more like damn near teaser and a lot of ways, in my opinion. Excuse me. I guess the thing I'm curious about, though, because this will be something that would kind of get me more into the story. Usually, when there's lichens, there's vampires, and then there's a part in the trailer where the dude cut his hand and the lady kind of like just drank all. And I'm like, are y'all about to do a video game where you guys are fusing the zombies and then werewolves?
That's the vibe I'm getting.
And vampires at the same time.
That's the vibe I'm getting. Yeah. But the one thing that I know about Resident Evil, and this is why it's it's always very interesting to me, right? Like if you haven't played 7, they really kind of they told the Resident Evil story and put it under the veil of like what's that movie? Oh man. The Crazies, or like The Hills Have Eyes, like like just like kind of like a crazy family, just I don't know, murdering people and doing crazy shit, and nobody knows what the hell is really happening. They told like a Resident Evil story and wrapped it in that kind of horror genre, right? And it seems like they're probably going to be doing the same thing. Again, for those of you who don't know about Resident Evil, like there's always the underlining fact that Umbrella is somehow pulling the strings, with chemical warfare and whatnot. That was the whole core of like the T virus and the zombie outbreak, and they did something very similar in Resident Evil 7. And I suspect that they're probably going to be using something very similar in Resident Evil 8. They'll probably have something to do with these lichens and these vampires and whatnot. I forget her name. It's like Lady something or another. I don't remember her
Lady
Dimitri or something like that.
Dimitriska.
Yeah.
It's spelled Dimitrescu. So
yeah, we're gonna find that out when we play the game, because I don't know how to say that. But the really tall chick, tall mistress, that the internet's been simping over, like, yeah, she looks like a vampire. She looks like a vampire to me. And as Chris mentioned in the trailer, they definitely showed her like kind of sucking somebody's blood. So I see the vampire werewolf thing happening here.
Super pale too, bro. Super pale.
Yeah, I think they confirmed she's a vampire, like previously. So yeah, you definitely got it right with the vampire stuff.
I'm just trying to understand like story wise where that goes, right? Because like, granted, I don't know the story like how you guys do, but from what I know, Resident Evil always kind of came across to me like it was really grounded in a lot of science-based stuff. Like the T virus was developed in a lab, it was administered, we got zombies and blah blah blah. But if you're introducing lichens and vampires into the fray, those are more, how do I put it? They're like fantasy based. Yeah, like it's different. So that makes me super intrigued to see what the story is in this newer game, because that's dope. And then with that being said, right, if vampires and werewolves hit in this game, and then that translates into whatever this Netflix adaptation is, I'm 100% here for this, because I'm like starving for any version of vampire or anything, because we have no vampire stuff right now to kind of go off of.
What about Castlevania?
Have you seen the Netflix show?
I've seen a couple episodes of it. It's not bad, but it ain't what I want. I want like a live action vampire thing. Let's not talk about True Blood. Oh God, let's not talk about True Blood. God, that ended so bad. But yeah, no, I'd be totally here for like vampire showing up in this show that comes out or whatever vampire stuff I can get. I'm here for. So I just really want to see how they tie it into the zombies portion of things, because the zombie thing was really easy for them to explain. How the hell y'all explaining that this village has all this crazy shit going on too? Like, I need to see this. Yeah.
If I'm hoping that this isn't the case, because now I'm just like kind of spoiling the story for myself. But if previous Resident Evils are anything to go by, there's probably a lab tied to Umbrella underneath the castle, and one of those experiments went wrong, and that's why like lichens exist here, and that's why this woman has vampiric tendencies, yeah, it's gonna have to do some strain of the T-Virus, some mutation of the T-Virus, or something along those
Yeah, I was
lines.
gonna say the same thing, but when I saw the
Yeah.
trailer though, you know what I'm saying? I don't know why, but every time I see Chris Redfield, I'm sorry, I just get so hyped. Yo, Chris Redfield's my man.
That Big Daddy.
But he looks
Woo.
bad, yo. He looks like a bad guy now.
Bro, like he looked crazy in the trailer. Yo,
Yeah, he looks
I'm
like
just
he's a Lycan.
I'm just I just can't wait to play the game. It need to be
I know. I
May
feel you.
7th already so I could just bank through it. And what I mean by bank through is like play like an hour of it, let it sit in a counter for like a year, and then stream it.
Oh man, I'm finishing that in like a day probably, because that's
I
what
want to
happened with
finish it too.
Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll have to see what that all holds on May 7th for sure. We'll keep you guys updated. I'm sure we'll have a little review episode. Manny and I talk about it a little bit more. Manny, I'm definitely holding you to finishing it because we got to talk about it. So
Yo, that can be a bonus episode.
there we go. Here we go. We'll see.
Hey.
Let us know if that's something you guys want for sure. Let us know in the comments down below. But yeah, let's just jump into the next topic here, which is really just kind of a freaking mess of rumors, because it's it's the spring, which means that it's just a shit ton of rumors right before E3 drops, because everybody wants to say they know something about somebody doing something and having this game coming out or this big bombshell. And then, obviously on top of the fact that we've already had all these crazy things happening with Game Pass and Microsoft acquiring Bethesda and whatnot, like the rumor mill has been churning, and all the possibilities, obviously, like we talked about before, are endless now, right? So almost any of these rumors almost seem viable. So we'll start off with one of the ones that kind of just crept up in the last couple of days, which is Square Enix. Apparently, there's a rumor that a couple companies are really trying to go out and acquire Square Enix. Really, it's really down to two, right? It's Microsoft and it's Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, one company would benefit having Square Enix over the other, because and then obviously that would be Microsoft. Microsoft is starving for support from Japanese developers and more mindshare from Japanese players. The Final Fantasy franchise, they're not really first on Xbox. Obviously, PlayStation has been reaping the benefits of some exclusivity with not only the Final Fantasy VII remake, but also the most recent Final Fantasy being announced. So, it's definitely an interesting rumor. There's been a lot of conversation about it over the internet these last couple of days, and Square Enix themselves has come out and said that they're not available for purchase. But we all know how that stuff goes. So I just want to get you guys' take on it here. Chris, I'll let you start off this time around. What do you think about Square being acquired?
I kind of feel like they're, how do I put this? I think they're kind of feeling themselves a little bit right now, right? And with I understand why they would be. I ain't gonna hold you, man. I think Square Enix is on a little bit of a run. I'm not gonna say they're on like a huge run and they're white hot or anything like that, but they're doing well currently. So I kind of feel like they see their own value a little bit more right now than I think they did in the last couple of years. Because I think if this was something that we talked about maybe even 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, maybe it'd be a done deal kind of thing. But I think they got Outriders that just came out. They've got a couple new games on the horizon that look pretty promising. I think they are. I don't know. It seems as though they got a little bit of like kind of what Bungie has going on a little bit, where Bungie's like, no, we're good. We're doing our own thing. We kind of don't really want to, mess with anybody else in that kind of way. It kind of feels like that's kind of where their mindset is too. Like we got our own thing. We're building something now. We got some foundation put in place for some new things to kind of really, hopefully, take off later in the future. I think, I just think they really believe in what they got coming in the future and what they currently have, and they just don't want to sell short on it.
Do you think? Sorry, not to cut you off. Do you think the run that they're on, or the moves that they've made recently, would really more than anything just drive up the price and give them an out?
It could, because I definitely believe like if somebody throws a wild number at them, it can still go down. Like they're gonna say what they're gonna say, obviously, but if you throw a wild price at them, it can definitely still go down. However, yeah, I would say that their little bit of a run that they're on is making them drive their price up a little bit, probably for some of these companies. I would not be surprised. Because again, if this was a couple years ago when it was just, I guess the Hitman and Final Fantasy and a couple other games that they had, not saying that those aren't big games, but like it was almost like they plateaued a little bit. It doesn't feel so much like they're plateaued anymore. It feels like now they have some ladders built to kind of get them to some new heights. So, I don't know if I would sell myself short in that way. That's kind of like you're a company that develops an item, and the item's kind of been coasting and not really doing that well for like 5 years, right? And then in those 5 years, you might consider selling it because you're like, it's not doing what we want it to do. But then it takes off. It takes off. And then now somebody comes at you with some big ass offer. Like that puts you in a weird spot, man. Like you're like, well, shit. I kind of want to sell it, but I mean, it's getting hot now. Do I really want to? Because then you got to think about future projections and like money you could possibly be leaving on the table if you get into bed with a certain person. So it's like, I just think their ego is a little bit in play here, and not for anything bad. I don't think it's a bad thing that that's the case. I actually kind of like when certain companies know what they're worth. But if we talk about this again in a year and we're in a different place, I wouldn't be surprised at that either. So they're doing good. They're doing good.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you can go. No, you can go.
No, I was just gonna say, go ahead. I want to hear from you.
Now, so how I look from this is like, all right, let's go two ways. One way, like Chris said, like they could think that they're in like this run and like they're doing good because the recent success of other things like Outriders and stuff like that. Or they could just be bluffing and be like, oh, we're good, but in reality, they're just trying to raise the price up of like by saying that they don't want to be bought out, but in reality, hey, maybe you just want more money. That the offers just ain't it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And like looking at this is like I feel like, in a sense, it would be better to like side with Microsoft because as we know, Microsoft gave Outriders the opportunity to be on Game Pass day one, and we see how successful that has been. So it's like we see what what can happen right here, where it's like Microsoft can make your games better by basically putting on the Game Pass platform so that everybody else can play it. And next thing you know, you got that one-sided revenue coming in because of how successful your games have been. Whereas, you got some iffy games that you don't want to buy right away because like, $70 nowadays just isn't like, easy to come by, especially if you, got a lot of stuff in your hand or stuff in your plate. So like, it's just like, I would not hope, but like, I would love the fact that, if Microsoft does buy it, because we know what comes from Microsoft has always been good so far, at least the last couple of years. But, yeah, I mean, I would say that's my take on it. They're probably just, wanting a bigger price than what they're offered.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously who can blame them in that scenario? I think, to Manny's point, I think it would make more sense for Square Enix to align with Microsoft because they have the deeper pockets. It's it's just that simple. Also, even in the report that we were talking about you guys were talking about last week around Sony and their unwillingness to take as many risks as they took in the past, right? Like they want more surefire hits, and obviously that can be a good thing for the Final Fantasies of the world, right? And that that already has its fan base there. The name brand is just too strong, right? So they'll continue to pump out Final Fantasy games, but Outriders 2, is that necessarily a guarantee? Like, is it moving the numbers that Sony wants it to move for them to really dive in and do that? And even just the thought of acquiring a company as big as Square Enix with all the intricacies that they have going on, is that something that Sony would even want to invest in, right? Like, we know that they obviously don't have as much money as Microsoft. They're doing very well in their gaming division, but they don't have the type of money to go ahead and sling out, $7.5 billion without blinking, So if Sony was to go ahead and jump on that and try to acquire Square Enix, which I really have a hard time seeing happening, I feel like they would probably try to just acquire IPs or acquire the whole studio and sell out different IPs. So they maybe try to sell the Outriders IP to someone else, sell Hitman to this other person, and they probably really just want to focus on acquiring Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts and keeping those types of things in house. Um, I have a hard time seeing Sony doing any of that, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that maybe say Square is playing hardball, right? Just trying to get the price to rise up. Do you think Square knows? Well, let me ask another question first. Square is based in what country? Like, what is that? Japan?
yeah, Japanese company, I believe. Yeah.
So, do you think that it's a situation where they know that Microsoft needs more Japanese representation, so they're going to hold out even more on them because of that? Not saying that they're desperate for it, but we all know they need it. It's the same thing we were talking about with Kojima.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Phil Spencer's not quiet about it either, right? He says so. Yeah, I think you're right. It could have a play. It could drive up their price. Absolutely, for Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for Microsoft, yeah.
I mean, but
That's
also, we've only talked about obviously Sony and Microsoft, but there are other companies that play too, right? Like, who's to say Amazon doesn't want to try to go buy them? Amazon's whole gaming situation is still kind of in flux, right? They just announced that they had to cancel their Lord of the Rings MMO that was supposed to be coming out. So, who's to say they obviously have deep pockets too. Tencent's been buying stake in freaking every company known to man at this point. They own a pretty decent stake in Epic Games. If there's a company that's floundering or up for sale, why the heck wouldn't they want to go over there and try to buy a little bit of Tencent? So, those are all things I think come into play as well. So the price may not even necessarily being driven up by the fact that Microsoft needs these Japanese developers. It could be there are other, companies that play here, and that could be why they're playing hardball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely something to look out for. But we'll jump into another topic. Still Xbox related. To be honest, the next couple ones we're really going to talk about, have something to do with Xbox at some level. We got a report out this past week as well that some of these bigger Xbox exclusives may be a little bit further out than some people may be expecting. So really just diving right into it here. Looks like GameIndustry.biz editor Christopher Dring was on a podcast recently and had this to say. He said, I've had a few conversations with friends at Xbox Game Studios, and those games they announced, Everwild, Perfect Dark, and Fable, are so far away, as in they may even be in a new Xbox by the time these games come out. When you look at the Hideo Kojima stuff, you wonder if they're signing these third party in the moment because they don't have a lineup of big exclusives at all. I mean, that's a really interesting quote. I feel like it's a bit misleading though, because when you say a new Xbox, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there might be some.
That's cap. It's gotta be, bro.
Well, I think there's an assumption that there's going. Just to be clear, I don't know what he's saying, but I suspect that when he talks about a new Xbox, I don't think he means like the next generation of Xbox. I think he's talking more about like
the Xbox Pro.
Yeah, like a refresh, like how we had the One X last year and the PlayStation 4 Pro. I think that's more what he's talking about. Although I just don't think that that's in the cards for this generation. I think these systems are coming out like they're still bleeding edge even now 6 months later, right? Whereas like the Xbox One and the Xbox and the PlayStation 4, when they came out, the processors in them were like laptop parts. They weren't even like high tier parts. So I don't know. I don't know if I believe that there will be a mid term refresh or whatever in the same vein as we've had last generation. So I don't know how I feel about this, but I do think that there is something to what he's saying, that these games are a little bit further out than maybe some people might be thinking. I don't think that Microsoft has been necessarily shy about that either, right? Like I think these games we could probably expect in 2023, 2024. And I don't think that Microsoft's like hiding that. So I think it's an interesting quote to really go out there and say that. The second half of his quote, though, where he talks about the Hideo Kojima stuff and signing certain third-party deals to kind of mask the lack of exclusives, I think is an interesting one, right? I mean, we know that Halo Infinite should be coming this year, hopefully. Um, I suspect they're holding on to Hellblade 2 as well. You know, they're probably going to try to push that out maybe sometime in the summer next year or something.
Mhm.
I think that Microsoft might have a couple more exclusives than just these three that he's talking about, right? Like, and you know, that's not even factoring in Bethesda stuff, right? That's you know,
Mhm.
that's automatically Microsoft exclusives. So I think that's the third party signings might be a little bit short sighted for what he's looking at. I think you might want to look at the actual acquisitions that they're doing, like the real companies that they're bringing on for them. Those are the ones that should be bridging the gap while we wait for Everwild and Perfect
Mhm.
Dark and Fable. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
But
I mean, we still got Gears of War 2 and like, yeah, I mean, I guess he just doesn't remember like whoever what the quote, I forgot his name, but I guess he forgot that, you know, Bethesda like announced what Skyrim and not Skyrim, the new Elder Scrolls and Starfield like a while
Mhm.
back. So, you know, we know that's been in development for a while at least. So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if they don't think that's going to be big enough exclusive, then I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Yeah, I think that whole conversation was just weird. Like Microsoft has a lot of
Mm-hmm.
studios. They have Undead
Yeah.
Labs, they've got Obsidian, they've got Double Fine, they got In Exile. Obviously, we talked about all of Bethesda. You know, 343 is not looking for Halo Infinite to be a flash in the pan, right? That game should have some legs the way that they're trying to get it set up. I don't think Microsoft's going to have anything to worry about as far as not having these, you know, exclusives to look at. But I do want to weave it into another topic as well because I do think it might have something to do with this conversation. You know, Xbox Global Publishing. That's something that apparently not a lot of people talk about, and we've gotten some news recently this week that there may be at least 3 games independent of the Kojima games that are in the works through Microsoft Global Publishing. And for those of you who don't know, Global Publishing is usually where Microsoft partners with third-party developers or you know developers that they don't actually own. For example, Quantum Break would be one of the games that came out of Xbox Global Publishing. You know, they partnered with Remedy, an independent studio, to make that game exclusively for Xbox because they published it. Killer Instinct is another example. Crackdown, Ori and Will of the Wisp, or even Ori and the Blind Forest. Those are all games that are under the Microsoft Global Publishing umbrella. So, you know, if they're working with these other companies, and God knows who these companies could be, right? I mean, let's say this is probably not the case, but you know, Chris might be happy to hear this, but let's say they're working with Bungie, right? They're working with Bungie on Matter or whatever the next game is that's supposed to be coming out. That's huge, right? Like they're talking about these as being big time triple A studios working with Xbox Games Publishing. Um, I don't know. I feel like that might be the thing that's the stopgap as well in between you know Perfect Dark and these other games coming out. So I want to get your guys' take on this here. So Manny, I'll let you start off. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and we know, like, obviously, we have all this speculation on the Kojima games being a thing, of course. So, like, you know, you might say that all Xbox likes exclusives, but you know, with this whole announcement with the global game publishing that you mentioned, with that we have what you said 3 AAA studios. So that's
At
three.
least that's the rumor. That's
Yeah,
the rumor.
and that's just a rumor. So like, that's 3 AAA titles that you know potentially could be exclusive for Xbox. Like you said, we've seen Killer Instinct and Quantum Break before, and those were exclusives. And not only that, but of course, like we always mention, coming to Game Pass most likely. So like, you know, it's really huge. I'm definitely, you know, can't wait to find out who's those studios that you know they are working on potentially, and you know, I'd love to see, you know, because like we know Microsoft hasn't been the greatest with exclusive in the previous generation, but you know, hopefully, you know, this generation, you know, spike that up. So,
Yeah, yeah, they've done everything to show us that they're trying to change that, right?
mm-hmm,
So I mean, yeah, and that's the thing about this season. I call it silly season or rumor season or whatever. It's really just because we're right there, you know, almost about to get to
mm-hmm.
E3. It's only you know a couple months away. So you know we tend to get these rumors, and I'm sure they're going to get even louder. But yeah, Chris, what do you think about this news?
Well, firstly, I definitely think that saying the whole new Xbox thing was just like a really poor choice of words. Just because he probably did mean what you said, whenever the next rendition of this current Series X comes out. But like wording it that way was just bad, man. 90% of folks are going to read that and say, wait, what? So you're telling me this game is not going to come out for like 6, 7, 8 years? And that's that. I don't know why he said it like that.
Yeah.
Number two, it's funny how this is working out, right? Because we're more or less are getting told that the Xbox exclusives are going to kind of be taking their time to come out, but we're also getting told that we got 3, possibly maybe more games on the horizon that potentially could fill the holes for these games until they do come out. Where then you listen to the Sony side of things, and I think just a couple weeks ago we were talking about how Sony is putting most of their eggs in the baskets for their main games, and they're not so much working so much on the indie side of things. So it's funny. It's like it sounds like it's the opposite effect on both sides of the fence. You got them taking their time on Microsoft's and then still putting out other games that could still hit, and then PlayStation saying we're not even going to be trying to worry about these little indie games. Let's just make sure that these hit. So it's a crazy dynamic how this is working out, but I would argue I would still probably side with how Microsoft is doing things, just because there's more risk taking on the Microsoft side of things. There's more of an excitement for new IPs on the Microsoft side of things. When you get told that we're not really working on indie stuff like that, or we are, but it's not the priority because we're working on all this other stuff that you guys have already seen before. Like it's cool, but it takes excitement away. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always here for these new IPs, especially now we got new consoles. I want to see new things that kind of push the barrier, that kind of make it feel like we got these for a reason. So like that's just where I'm at with it. And if they're able to show us that within these older games, cool, but it's still not the same as like getting a whole brand new IP. And that's the thing that's missing from both these consoles right now, in my opinion. Whenever we ever got like old consoles in the past and they came out, there was always like one new game that came out too with it that was like a launch title. It seems like that's how it usually worked. Like there was always at least one newer thing.
Yeah, I agree.
And that didn't happen this time. And maybe you could blame COVID and a couple other things for that, but yeah, I don't
personally, I would blame just the fact that like people are always, these companies are always looking at risk assessment, right? Like, and the fact that these games cost so much more money now than they've ever cost before, right? You're spending millions of dollars, say $10 million on a game, and you're not entirely sure if you're going to get the return on that investment. So would you rather go make another Call of Duty, or would you try to make a brand new game, from scratch? Like if you know that Call of Duty ABCD or game ABCD sold, X amount of units, if you're going to go out and make another game, in theory that should be another guaranteed X amount of units plus some, right? As opposed to you making some completely new IP that maybe might hit, maybe it'll only sell 3 million copies when we really want it to sell 8 million, like it's tough to argue with the logic behind it, but it obviously doesn't feel good as gamers, right? Like we want new shit, right?
Definitely agree. We don't want another Mario for another 30 plus years.
Golly, good God, yeah. Mario Golf, Mario Barbershop, Mario Ice Cream Truck. Golly.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Mario thing, because that actually brings us to our final topic in the rumor mill. Something that's crept up again, something we've talked about in the past before, is that apparently Microsoft's working really hard to court Nintendo and get Game Pass on the Switch. This time around, what we're hearing is that, actually not just Nintendo, but also apparently they've been trying to work with Valve to get Game Pass on Steam, which I think is an interesting decision because it's already on PC. But whatever. I think Microsoft's mindset is, let's make it as ubiquitous as we can possibly make it. Anyone who uses anything, if you're a PC gamer and the only thing that you do is open up Steam to get your games, then we want to go to you. We want Game Pass to speak to you. We don't want you to have to go download something else. So I can understand the move, but the bigger thing is Switch, right? Like if they can go ahead and work with Nintendo, obviously we know how the Switch is built. The rumor is that this thing will get announced in the fall, And we've all been talking about how this new Switch is supposed to be coming this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see the announcement of Game Pass on the Switch coincide with this new Switch Pro or Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be, Switch 4K. So I think the question that comes up in my mind is, what would the Game Pass on Switch look like if it's, if we're hearing these rumors getting louder and louder? Is it a situation where this relationship with Nintendo can also lead to more Nintendo games on Game Pass as well? Like, that would obviously be something that's pretty huge and another feather in Microsoft's cap, right? Like, even what we were just talking about with these deals for games, Microsoft published games. I think the biggest exclusive that Microsoft has right now is Game Pass, right? It trumps almost everything that's going on. Obviously we talk about the show, MLB The Show is obviously going to be on PlayStation, but it almost feels more like an Xbox exclusive right now because all I have to do is pay $10 a month to be able to access it. It's a bigger deal, and you may see more people playing the show on Xbox than they would be playing it on its original platform. So I guess that's really what leads me to my question about Nintendo, and if there's a possibility that we might see, maybe not Mario, but maybe maybe some spin-off of Zelda, maybe Hyrule Warriors, or maybe Metroid, something, some Nintendo game starting to creep its way onto Game Pass. Maybe Pokemon, like something.
Super Smash.
Man, yeah, that would be freaking crazy.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely wild. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about this? Obviously it's something we've talked about before, but the fact that the news is getting louder, I guess it means something, right? So, Chris, I'll let you start off this time. What do you think?
I almost feel like if they got to a point where Nintendo games were on Game Pass and Game Pass was on the Switch, that like you should just be absorbed by Microsoft at that point. Because I'm like, dude, I could get like maybe they'll say we'll keep our Mario games and stuff like that exclusive to Switch only, so you still have to finally, buy a Switch if you want to play that stuff. But I mean, at that point, like, it doesn't really make any difference. It just, I don't know. If they end up putting Nintendo games on Game Pass, that's gonna shock me more so than the Game Pass being on the Switch, if that makes any sense. Just because, man, yeah, you guys said what, Smash? If you can play Smash or Pokemon on another console, to me, just sounds very foreign. I I don't know how to. Yeah, that's weird. In my head, this entire time, I've literally been buying Nintendo consoles the last 5-10 years strictly to be able to play Pokemon. So it's like if I didn't have to do that anymore, and that's built into my Game Pass subscription. Well, one, Game Pass would definitely go up by about $10. Let's just all accept that now. But still, like, what? Like that's crazy to think about. They make so much money off of the certain Nintendo games that they don't even drop the prices over the years for these games. So for them to be on Game Pass with some of that stuff.
And again, I don't think it'd be like any of the heavy hitters, right? I actually don't think Smash would be one of them at first, at least, but a couple little games here and there.
Splatoon maybe, and shit like that, maybe.
Yeah, maybe Splatoon, maybe an older Pokemon game, maybe some of the remakes that they've done. Just planting the seed at least, because their relationship, Microsoft and Nintendo's relationship, has really expanded over the years, right? So I think if you're gonna put the platform of Game Pass on Switch, I think it's got to be met with some game, some game on there. Yeah, I don't know. Wow.
Yeah, that's something else. That's something else.
Manny, what do you think about it, man? What do you think about this news?
Yeah, I mean, not only the fact that Game Pass will be on Switch, but we know xCloud was a thing that we already got on our phones, at least on Samsung side right now, or Android side. So just, expanding that to the Nintendo Switch, because we know Nintendo Switch definitely won't be able to run games like, Forza Horizon and stuff like that because of how limited the hardware is.
But a Switch Pro, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what we're talking about here, though. It's a Switch Pro. Maybe it could.
Hey man, maybe it could, but I feel like it's just gonna be more of like, streaming again, because we know like, now like games like Control, where it's like in order to play Control on the Switch, it opens like a software, I think, or something like that, and you have to play it through there basically in a cloud-based server or like streaming it basically. So I can see that something like being something where it's just like Microsoft's like, hey, why don't you use our xCloud service and throw Game Pass in there as well, and obviously be beneficial because now you got all, hundreds and hundreds of games that you can play on your Switch without having to, spend like 60, maybe even $20 on these indie games per indie game when you could just pay $10 a month on, the xCloud or the Game Pass subscription. So that definitely would, be huge. And even if they do end up putting on some games, like there's definitely like a lot of games on the Switch that hasn't been looked at because it's just like, I feel like nowadays it's just like the Switch is, people are just used to playing Mario and stuff like that they don't want to try something new. But now when you have these games on Game Pass, it definitely opens up a lot more, and it'll definitely help out with Nintendo wanting to make more IPs instead of, relying on the old services. So, like, definitely a lot of opportunity that this can, open up, and we just, just gotta wait for the news for that to finally drop.
You're right. Yeah, man. I feel like it boggles my mind to think about that as an even just a small possibility, right? Like I don't know. It's definitely something that's been continuously teased, right? Jeff Grubb, who writes for VentureBeat, he's been kind of one of the bigger ones, teasing certain pieces of news and whatnot. And he talked about in particular like everything that was on Phil's shelf, Phil Spencer's shelf, in that I forgot what interview he was doing, but it was the one that led to the conversation around the Kojima news and so on and so forth. Like they said everything on his shelf behind him has significance about the potential things happening in the future, right? So we saw a Kojima statue, we saw some stuff referencing Square Enix, we saw a Switch console sitting up on that shelf. And we know that Phil's done some of that stuff before, right? Manny, I believe you were the one who mentioned it last week. He had a Xbox Series S in the background, kind of teasing it, right before the console was actually announced. It's just interesting that like these conversations keep coming up around different industry insiders kind of referencing this stuff. Like it's got to mean something, right? Like I don't know, like a lot of rumors kind of fly out there and they don't necessarily stick to the wall, but the fact that this isn't the first, second, or third time that we've heard a conversation around Game Pass being on the Switch, like I really think that it's going to happen. And I know a lot of people seem to be mind blown by it and really doubt that it'll happen, but I don't know. I really think in some capacity it's going to happen. So with that being said, if it does show up on Switch and that partnership comes through, and there's one Nintendo game you guys really wanted to see on Switch, and this will be kind of the last thing we do before we head out, what would you guys want to see?
I mean,
wait. Ask that again. So you're saying if there's one Nintendo game on the
that
Switch
you could put on Game Pass, yeah, one Nintendo game that can be on Game Pass for Switch, what would you guys want to see?
I'll go first. What's that new Pokemon game? I forgot what it's called. No, the one that we saw with that was like open world that actually looked different. I would want to see that on Game Pass. How do I forget?
Pokemon Legends.
Pokemon Legends. There you go. Pokemon Legends. Yeah, that what I'm saying. Like if that comes in Game Pass day one when it comes out, because that hasn't came out yet, and I think they're shooting for next year. So like, put that on Game Pass. Now you got everybody wanting to play Pokemon again. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you can even do like if it is like multiplayer or has some kind of multiplayer aspect. You know what I'm saying? Chris could do his trades with his boys on the Xbox Party Chat.
A dream come true. God, Lord have mercy.
Yeah,
a dream come true.
It would either be Pokemon Legends or, of course, Smash, because I mean, Smash is like the only fighting game that.
Many.
I know. I'm just saying. That's what I'm saying.
I know. Chris, what about you, man?
I would love for it to be Pokemon, but I really, truly just don't think they would ever allow that. Just because, like,
remember we're dealing with pipe dreams here, right? I don't think
Mhm.
Pokemon would be, or at least that Pokemon game. I don't think that would be it either. So
Okay,
just we're talking pipe.
all right. Pipe dreams, pipe dreams. If we're talking pipe dreams, hmm. I mean, if Pokemon was on Game Pass, I'll tell you this much: I wouldn't have to buy the Nintendo consoles anymore. I literally wouldn't have to anymore. It would just be in Game Pass, and everything would be on the Xbox, and that would save me money. But if I can't choose Pokemon, then because Goop already said it, then I want Zelda and Game Pass. Like, give me Breath of the Wild and all that stuff in Game Pass. And if I got that, whoo,
Okay.
Stop playing. Give me that. Let me get that.
Mhm.
All right.
Definitely.
All right. For me, I'm gonna keep it consistent because I've been banging the drum for this game since pretty much day one. I want Metroid. Whatever this new Metroid game is, I want that on Game Pass. I want to be able to play that with my Xbox controller, and I want to fuck some shit up. Just that simple.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sir.
If they ever announce it.
Yeah, if they ever progress it, because they announced it, but it's
that's
like,
what you mean. Yeah, that's what I meant.
New stuff. Yeah.
But, that's rough.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, I mean, hey, we're living out here in the pipe dream. You guys let us know what Nintendo game you guys would want to see on Game Pass, because at this point, anything can happen, right? The sky's the limit when we're talking about Game Pass and we're talking about Microsoft and we're talking about gaming. But yeah, we're gonna head out of here. But before we do that, as we always do, guys, where can the people find you? Manny, start it off.
You already know. I actually been streaming a lot lately, trying to get that rolling again, because what I'm saying, it's that time of year. But so yeah, you can follow me on twitch.tv/GoopMasterFlex where I stream. Hit me up in the chat and everything like that. And of course, socials, Instagram, GoopMasterFlex_TTV, and then Twitter, just GoopMasterFlex_.
Okay, Chris, what about you, man?
As always, people, I'm on everything at MAY25THX on everything. And as I always have to plug, because it seems like people just never seem to remember, Gmail. People pen pal me. Be nice. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, pen pal your boy. Just pen pal him. Just send him one email. One nice
keep it PG. Keep it PG.
Why not?
Keep it PG. All right.
Or don't.
No,
okay.
no, or don't. Keep it PG.
Oh man, yeah. Well, for me, guys, I'm Black Ice 8 everywhere: Xbox, PlayStation Network, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. But the only difference is on Instagram, it's Black Ice 8_gaming. Make sure to check me out. Make sure to check out our Instagram page at XPackPod. And we'll check you guys out next week. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.
Yeah.